Good morning.
Morning, everybody.
Morning.
Good morning.
Paul, you should be happier than this with your Patriots, right?
They're kicking some butt. It's Mike's Patriots too.
Yep.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
that kid you have for quarterback, he's pretty good. The Giants quarterback,
Yeah.
and but I guess the coaching staff you guys made a change recently, so hopefully it's healthy.
You can't rely on your quarterback to be the running back.
No, he can't be everything. Can't catch the ball either.
No. Did you tell John and Patrick the meter doesn't start until exactly 8 a.m.?
I think they know that by now.
Even though they're here 3 minutes early.
That's why they're not on the image right now. Their video hasn't started.
Morning, guys. It's like Tom Coughlin
Thursday.
rules. If you're not early, you're late.
That's true.
Morning, everybody.
Morning.
That's right. Tom Coughlin, he had to be there 5 minutes early, right?
Yeah. He was some coach.
Yeah. Mike, those are the same clothes as yesterday. Did you sleep over?
No. Recycle them.
Oh, okay. Good morning.
Hey, Mayor.
How'd the last 10 minutes of the webinar go, Paul, when I had to jump off?
Yeah, it went fine. They had some question and answer, and we did pretty well with answering those. So yeah, all good.
I think we've got that show down now.
We could tour the country.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to get started. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the November 12th meeting of the Engineering, Public Works, and Planning Committee. We have a full house here. We have our traffic consultants. We have our deputy chief from the South Essex Fire Department. Of course, members of the Township Committee. We're going to start off with public comments. I see a couple members of the public here. I don't know if you'd like to say anything to the committee before we get into some of the items. Catherine?
Hi, I'm Catherine Redd. I live in Maplewood, of course, and I have a business called Soma Cycle, which does subscription based and does recycling of hard to recycle items that curbside recycling doesn't pick up. And I had read in the Village Green that that Maplewood and South Orange are considering moving to taking plastics 1 through 7 as opposed to 1, 2, and 5, which we currently do, and I think is probably the most common thing that New Jersey towns do. And so I was just mainly interested, I don't have too many comments, but I'm just interested in finding out a little bit more about how that's gonna, if in fact it is going to happen, and if so, how it's gonna get rolled out, and maybe just a little bit of the thinking behind it. I know, I mean, I've tried to kind of, I ask a lot of this because I get asked as many questions about curbside recycling as I do about the things I take with my business. So I try to be as knowledgeable as possible so that I'm passing along correct information to people in the community. So yeah, I'm just interested in that. I kind of did a little bit of research, and it doesn't seem like too many towns do that. I found, like, I think Nutley does Nutley, New Jersey takes 1 through 7. And so I just wondered, I guess I wondered kind of what the thinking was behind taking more, knowing that number 3, 6, and 7 are very rarely actually recycled, and more likely just going to, even if we send them to be recycled, going to end up getting landfilled or incinerated. But I can also understand why more is more, and that it's great to encourage people to kind of think about it, because I know what I do too is just trying to get people to think about it, get in better habits, push the boundaries of what we can do within a recycling system that doesn't always work perfectly. So.
Great, thank you.
Sure.
Well, it's going to come up pretty soon as we stop end the public comment. Is there
Okay.
anyone else from the public who would like to talk to us before we get going? Oh, Rob, I see your hands up. Thank you.
Hi there, Rob, Richmond and Midland. I saw that on the agenda, Danelle was coming up. I wanted to say I'm excited to see that actual bike lanes are in the diagrams. The addition of a potential two-way multi-use path down by the train station would be super cool. I think if we could pull it off, that'd be a huge boost to anyone who commutes to the train station and then to the the library and all the kids at the middle school. I think it's so good that I hope we reconsider what's going on north of was it Oakview or Oakland? I forgot which the cutoff point is. Because if you have 2 one-way lanes on each side, and then you got to cut across to the 2-way lane, and then you got to walk back to the train station, doesn't make a ton of sense in terms of like wayfinding, actually navigating by bike. So if the Greenway could be, continuous 2-way multi-use path the whole way down, that would be incredible and a real game changer for going north-south through the neighborhood. So I look forward to seeing what you all have to say. Just wanted to say thanks for considering it. And I didn't see any, misremembering, I didn't see any sharrows in there, which I'm always happy about because they don't actually help. And if the 2-way lane can get rid of the one section of door lane, that would be amazing as well, because the parking protected lane has a 3-foot buffer so people could open their car door and not, hurt someone on a bike. That logic should apply to both sides of the street. I don't know why a bike lane is considered okay if it's a small stripe of paint pressed up against the door on the outside, because now you're going to get hit by a door and pinned by a car on the other side. So looking forward to see what happens there. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak to us? I see the iPhone and Owen. Anybody else? Okay. Well, there is going to be another opportunity to make some comments later on. And we're going to move into the plastics recycling. Deborah, you brought this to us as a liaison to the Environmental Advisory Committee, and I know the mayor, you've been involved in conversations with South Orange about it. So I'll turn it over to the two of you.
Okay, Go ahead, Deb.
I'll just give the background that the Environmental Advisory Committee visited the recycling facility with Mr. Kittner and learned that they do accept all plastics. And so they had written us a memo of a few recommendations that come out of that visit. And one of them was to accept all recycling numbers. And to Catherine's point, they did weigh the back and forth about the pros and cons about whether it actually does get recycled or what happens from a sustainability aspect of it. But they felt like collecting all 1 to 7 would be the right move for Maplewood. And then the mayor was taking that back to the two-town committee to discuss recycling. So I'll kick it over to the mayor.
Yeah, I spoke with Walter Clark about this a week or so ago. They are, so as you mentioned, Deb, the Bay Shore does take and I believe mostly recycle the numbers that typically don't get recycled. So the downside of not picking up all those numbers of plastic in our recycling is that they automatically go in the garbage. Picking them up means that there's, a really good chance that they'll get recycled. So I agree with Deb and with Environmental Advisory Committee. And I think it would make the message much cleaner since we went on this recycling joint venture with South Orange a few years ago. And we worked hard at the messaging when we switched to dual stream, being consistent between towns. So I think keeping it consistent makes a lot of sense for this and a better chance for those plastics to be recycled in the end. So we need to make that decision as a township.
Paul, do you have any thoughts, and would there be any impact with Basso?
Thank you, Mr. DeLuca. So I don't think there would be a considerable impact to Mr. Basso. I think, there may be an increase in volume of recycling. We wouldn't pay more to Basso for that. We're basically paying for the trips, not the volume or mass. So I think there would be a slight impact, a slight increase based on other people recycling the other plastics to Bayshore, which is the marketer. But yeah, Bayshore has the capacity to recycle 1 through 7. They have domestic partnerships where they actually recycle this material. So they're able to do that. We did confirm that it actually gets recycled and not tossed in the trash. So that's a good thing. And if they're able to take it, I see no reason to not follow suit with South Orange's, idea of launching this the beginning of next year.
And Patrick Wary, you could weigh in. Can this just be an administrative decision? You need the township committee to do it
Administrative decision.
with our guidance, correct?
We absolutely, yeah. We
Yeah.
look for the township committee's desire to do this, and then we can implement this. We don't need resolutions, ordinances, or contracts.
I think it would be helpful to discuss it publicly at a meeting. Excuse my dog wanting to go out. And if we don't need to, we don't need anything, I guess, to change anything. It's not in our ordinance, right? That what we recycle, that's not anywhere, right?
I don't believe it is. I haven't seen it. Our website, the DPW website, does say 1, 2, and 5. So that would have to be changed, but that's fairly easy to do.
Yeah, I just think we need to do communication, maybe put, slightly change the existing graphics and stuff on that launch that we did a few years ago and add those and, spotlight that those are now recyclable.
From the perspective of this committee, it sounds like the 3 of us on the committee are in favor of giving the authority or giving that, they already have the authority, just giving the go-ahead to our administration to make the change. So
okay,
that's good. So do you think we need to bring it back to the township committee or just charge them with starting the communication effort?
I think we can, we can just update it in the report, either your
Okay.
report or mine.
All right. Yep. Okay. All right. Let's, anything else on that?
Nope.
Mayor, you wanted to mention Maple Crest Park and the former tennis area and talk about what we're thinking of doing there in the future.
Yeah, I mean, the all access playground is slated to go next to the existing playground, leaving that section, you know, just kind of looks like there used to be a tennis court there and there's nothing happening there. So I know we talked about passive recreation area because there's very little space in Maple Crest Park to do anything like sit down, read a book. So we talked about doing that. So I'd like to see where we are or get planning on a design for that, whether it's a landscape architect or whatever, to kind of make that a well-planted, landscaped area that can be sort of a respite from skate park and baseball games and all that stuff. So
Is there still a Maple Crest Park group?
they pay attention. I don't know how formal they are. They have been planting around the entrances the last couple of years, doing some in some bushes and decorative landscaping at the entrances to the park, which looks really nice.
And they've been doing cleanups lately. And there is a Facebook group. And I feel like if we promoted it and asked, people would want to be involved. I think people just don't really know that they can be.
So we would promote, sort of have a little session with them as to what uses they'd like to see. Is that what you're suggesting, Deborah?
Yeah, I think that would be a good idea. Because we have a lot of residents that live around the park, all the people on Boyden Parkway and Boyden Parkway South.
Yeah, I think, you know, personally, I think it'd be nice to buffer that those neighborhoods a little more from all the activity there as well.
I feel like Catherine read on this call doesn't live that far away from there, and she also has landscape experience. So shouting her.
I'm kind of laughing about this coming up right after recycling. It's right on the nose for me. Yes, I live on Maple Crest Park. And yes to all of this. I mean, that would be fantastic if I feel like there are enough people in the Facebook group, and Deborah Lyons lives nearby, who is mainly has been focused on Memorial Park, but she's definitely interested in this as well. And the trash pandas have moved to Maple Crest Park too. And so I feel like there's a good kind of bit of energy and activity around like keeping the park clean and improving it. So I think Deb's suggestion of getting some input would go a long way and probably be very appreciated and engaged with. So
mainly I brought it up so that we can move forward with a design, whether internally or externally, you know, doing a session of interest session with might be interesting, and preferably without any designs done beforehand to save money and also get the input up front. So
Patrick, you've been working on the inclusive park. Has there been any discussion by that group of that area?
No, there hasn't. But I did speak with the DEP about the area because the tennis courts were funded with Green Acres money, and they had completed an inspection last year and had questioned what would go in place of the tennis courts. They are very open to most everything, so it won't be an issue. But I do want to keep in mind that when we decide what to put there, we do want to give notice to the DEP.
okay, but how long does are you saying we got open space money, or wait, DEP money for putting in those tennis courts?
That's what the DEP told me, yeah.
Yeah.
And they're very open. They're not restrictive like they would be with an initial application. So I don't want to give anybody the idea that, we're so limited. But they do want to be included on what we do in that area. So I mention it now just so we remember.
My question though, Pat, is once they fund something and then 20 years later it gets taken away, they still have jurisdiction in some way over what the municipality does with that area?
Yes, they have some amount of jurisdiction, and not just the tennis courts, but also, that whether the like a property is acquired with Green Acre funds, and also when you take any Green Acre funds, all of your open space goes on a Rossi, that they
Right.
now have some ability to direct what can be done on any of those properties. So like a real clear example, where the tennis court is now, we couldn't choose to put in like an indoor basketball court. They wouldn't want to, well, they wouldn't want to see, they don't like to see structures. If you made an argument that the indoor structure supported outdoor rec, it gets fuzzy. But anyway, yeah, they do have that type of control.
I don't think there's much chance of that.
No.
All right, so we will, I think we've got sort of the kernel of what we want to do here is to pull some folks together and then have, I guess, both DEP and community services involved and get some of their get folks' input. Okay. All right.
And consider it for budgeting next year.
Yep. Okay, let's talk about the Greenway. We talked about this at the last meeting, and we said we would continue the conversation at this meeting, and we wanted to take a look at some of the concepts. So we did get concepts. Thank you, Dave. He sent around some of the concepts yesterday that we had. And I guess Paul Kittner, I'm going to give it to you, and you can weave in Patrick Downey and John McCormick as you see fit.
Mr. DeLuca, thank you. So this really, I think, started as not just the bike plan overall concept for the township, but this really also started as a Greenway project as well. Last year, we had completed the Greenway from West Parker to Jefferson. And I know there's been a lot of discussion on, well, how do we continue the Greenway and how do we continue, these bike lanes for consideration. So we did work a while back on these concepts. And, I think we could screen share those. It might make sense for us to screen share. Dave, do you have these available for screen share, or Pat?
I have it up if you want me to try.
Okay, here we go. So if there's a way we could kind of zoom in on the proposed. And maybe we can start where the Greenway ends at Jefferson. Okay. Maybe zoom back a little bit. Okay, so Dynamic had prepared these sketches, and what we're looking at is a bike lane that's defined, but it also encompasses the travel lane. And this is actually not a typical type of striping situation. I think Pat can go into more detail on this, but the component of this is primarily the bike lane. This would not be, for example, a shared lane for walking. There is a sidewalk that's not shown on the easterly side of the road where we could enhance that sidewalk and consider that part of the Greenway. Okay, we can enhance it. Now, there's a number of ways to enhance that, but that's up for discussion, and that might be at a later point. But the bike lane itself, we have two dedicated lanes, which would continue with the Greenway. It would continue this ability to bicycle. It's also worth noting that we're in the middle of striping Parker Ave, which connects to Maplewood Ave, and there is, our goal is to eventually connect, an ability for a bicycle to get from Maplewood Ave, for example, down Jefferson and connect to this bike lane as well. So there's two different ways of doing it. If you could flip to the next sheet, please. So here at Oakland Road, what we're proposing is actually two-way circulation. just at the intersection. Okay, and that's to accommodate the firehouse station. Okay, we want the firehouse to be able to circulate in either direction from that location. But beyond that, traveling south, okay, we're proposing a one-way circulation, and that's towards the train station. Now, why are we doing this? We're doing this because there's no way to implement with the road width that we have 2 dedicated bike lanes, okay, while maintaining parking, while maintaining the park facilities without making a significant impact to the park. So by eliminating one travel lane, we're introducing buffer areas and we're introducing a dedicated bike lane, which would take up that space. You know, this also promotes, you know, safer circulation. Now you only have one way of traffic, and that would be consistent with the prior circulation pattern. Okay, so if you continue to Oakview one way, all right, Oakview to Baker is already one way. This is really the tricky part. And the sketch right now, the way we ended this, it shows a bike lane going in the southern direction, south direction. The problem is we haven't come up with a proper return. We have ideas. There's a number of ways we could do this. But what's sketched out right now is not, it does not show a proper return going in the opposite direction for the bike lane. So
Are
one
both
consideration is to, and one thought is to remove the 14 or 12 spaces that are parallel that you could see and shift that bike lane up against the curb or introduce another bike lane. There would be enough room for 2 bike lanes to get to at least that point, which is just short of the train station.
Paul, can I
Yeah.
ask a question before you go on? The bikes are required to travel on roadways with the same rules of the road as cars, right?
Yes.
So why would they be able to go the opposite direction that cars are going on a one-way street?
So we have our traffic engineers. They might be able to provide some insight into that and explain that. But there is a second option that we have. Pat, is providing a two-way circulation bikeway possible if there's enough geometric in the road to accommodate the lane? I think going in the northern direction, it would be closest to the curb, so it would not be counter to the traffic flow. You'd have the buffer of the other lane.
Yeah, hi, good morning, everybody. So yes, Paul, to answer your question, there are a number of alternatives we've come up with that could introduce a northbound bike facility, even though this block of the roadway is one-way southbound for vehicles only. To Ms. Adams' question, it's not a requirement since the block is one-way southbound for vehicles to begin with. So the plan you see here that only provides a southbound bike lane is a viable option. We just wanted to present some other alternatives for what could be done to satisfy what is likely a demand that exists for northbound bicycle travel in this block as well to reach the train station from Baker Street, even though vehicles can't necessarily do it. So it's not a requirement, but there are options that could be considered to provide it.
So we did look at the option of encroaching into the park and widening the sidewalk. We actually looked at a number of ideas, and there is a potential for that, but the problem is we have a number of specimen trees along Donnell in the park that really cannot be impacted. Mike could speak more to this on those trees, but they're significant historic trees. So we would have to be very careful if we were to shift either the curb or the sidewalk. There is a possibility in certain locations where we could shift the curbing along Donnell Road and basically shift that parking closer to the travelway. It's tight in the very beginning, closer to Baker Street, but as you go towards Oakview, the road actually widens. We just don't have a concept developed as of right now. but we can be sure to have that prepared for the next meeting. We did walk the site, we did walk the park, and we were concerned with, you know, encroaching further closer to the trees with any curbing that could destroy, you know, root systems. So that's where we're at. I think we have to still refine this further, but this is, in my mind, the trickiest part. All of this requires the section from Oakland to Oakview to be one way. And I think that's why our fire department official is on to maybe voice some thoughts on that, if that's acceptable. So if we could just go back to that.
So Paul, just one other thing. So the way you have it here, people would have access to the office parking lot here? Two ways. If you came down Oakland, you can make a left there and then go into the parking lot of this
Yes.
office?
Yes. Correct.
Deputy Chief, yeah, just give us your thoughts here about this section of Donnell being one way. We also, I believe at one point talked about making Jefferson one way going south towards the train station. Is that another option?
Making Donnell
I'm sorry, Donnell, yes,
from Jefferson.
from Jefferson.
From Jefferson to Oakland, one way?
Yeah, we talked about that. There was there was a proposal or a concept at one point. Is that still?
That's the only one I thought there was. I didn't, this is new to me, the one way between Oakland and Oakview.
Pat, I know you guys looked at this. Do you have any thoughts on Jefferson to Oakland Road, making it one way?
Yeah, so that was something we discussed very early on when we first started looking at this entire roadway. To my recollection, it was dismissed pretty clearly because we didn't want to essentially cut off a route from the firehouse that currently exists. So right now there's easy northbound access from the firehouse to Jefferson. That would be, you know, eliminated under that scenario. So for that reason, to avoid increasing that response time, I think it was dismissed.
It makes,
Deputy Chief, you have some thoughts?
Good morning. Yeah, so that's from what Patrick just said, that he explained it perfectly. That's because our main access to the upper part of Maplewood would be Jefferson. So you know, making the left out onto Jefferson and then making our way up you know, to the hillside. Yeah, yep, that way. Making that a one way would obviously impede our access and, you know, increase response time. As far as the front of the firehouse there, yeah, I mean, if it could stay two way, that would be really good for us. I mean, if you wanted it to be one way going towards the train station for all intents and purposes, that's fine. I mean, we'll still pull out and you know, kind of go the wrong way a little bit onto Oakland Road if we have to. Having it two-way right there is quite honestly not so critical to our operations because we can still just kind of go a little bit of the wrong way onto Oakland. But yeah, yep, right there. Yeah, so we can still, it's kind of it's a little catty corner, but we can still go straight out. So if you wanted to make that one way, that's not a big concern for us. But Jefferson remaining a two-way that's definitely or I'm sorry, Donnell out to Jefferson, that
Right.
you know would definitely have to stay you know, two-way.
And do you have any issue with if looking at this, if Donnell was from the fire station to Oakview, if that was one way south?
No problem, because we'll still, you know, like I said, if we had to come out a little catty corner going the wrong way a little bit,
Yeah,
it's
okay.
it's not a lot of the road that we would, you know, impact anyway.
Alright.
But if all the parking was taking off of Donnell Road, that would actually be really good from the, you know, going, you know, between Oakland and Jefferson, because that's a pretty tight area for us to get through. So if there was no parking and just the bike lanes for us, that would actually be really good. So
And okay, thank you, Chief.
you're welcome.
Could you explain, I see we have the lane sizes. exactly what are we talking about between the firehouse and Oakland?
Pat,
Oakview.
you want to talk, Mr. Downey?
Yeah, so I can chime in on that. So what we have here is one direction of vehicle travel in the center of the road where the white arrow is. That's the vehicle travel lane, southbound only.
That is 11 feet wide.
Correct. Yep. And these individual dimensions could shift plus or minus, but in general, this is just a conceptual out of the lane layout. So we have that vehicle travel lane with the bike lane in the same southbound direction directly to its right. That's pretty typical. And then on the right side of the road, up against the mixed use development on the top, there's the parking lane. To the left side, there is also a parking lane. So while normally parallel parking is accessed, to your right side as the driver, this one would be on your left, simply by nature of the road being one-way southbound. But since that parking existed and is pretty high demand, we didn't want to, impact that row of parking. So that is maintained, just accessed from the opposite direction. And then the last thing you see at the bottom is the northbound bike lanes. So in this block, unlike the southern block that Paul mentioned a moment ago, this we do have sufficient width to maintain bidirectional cycle flow, even though vehicle travel is one way. This is a little bit more critical lane in the sense that because it's going the opposite direction, or what we would call contraflow to the vehicles, it requires a little bit more safety enhancement. So that's why you see this direction has that buffer. It's a little bit less expected, perhaps for a driver, for a cyclist to be going that way. It protects them from the doors of the vehicles, from that leftmost parking lane. And the potential for conflict, it would be greater between a bicycle going northbound and a vehicle going southbound because they'd be traveling opposite directions, a head-on type of situation. So that bike lane northbound is extremely protected under this plan, both by the striped buffer and the fact that it is parking protected. The row of parking is actually in between the vehicle travel and the bicycle lane.
So why not do that on the opposite side of the road? Do the parking like I've seen in Europe, do just what you're doing on the east side.
Yeah. Yeah, so parking protected would be our first choice. The issue here was the width. We essentially just barely have the width to provide one buffer, but not two. So because we need the buffer, for the northbound, because it's the most critical, there wasn't the room available, and we can't pinch the bike lane directly in just a 5-foot strip between the curb and the parking lane.
And Mr. Downey, you would recommend that buffer width on the eastbound side because it's contraflow as opposed to splitting it in half and sharing it on both sides, right?
Right, both that and the dooring potential. Dooring's always a concern when there's parking and bike lanes near each other on roads. In the southbound direction toward the left of your page, at a minimum, there is an opportunity for a cyclist to move over if there is an open door because they're adjacent to the vehicle lane. If there's no vehicle there, the bicycle going northbound is really stuck if they don't have that buffer, because to their right is a curb. They don't have the ability to go around an open door.
So that protected lane with the bike coming the wrong direction is precisely what I was asking about on the other end between Oakview and Baker. There, it's even less opportunity to protect it. But
Mayor, to your point, I mean, that's one of the considerations, when we just make a final decision on, how we orient these bike lanes, the final decision, that should be considered.
right, but losing parking over there, that's ginormous and problematic for a whole lot of reasons. Commuters, customers to the village, that's tough.
I mentioned before, the possibility of going into the park with an expanded walkway / shared lane. If we wanted to consider a wider sidewalk, Mr. Downey, how wide would that sidewalk have to be on the east side, along the park to be shared?
So for it to be, a shared use path envisioned for cyclists going two ways, on their bike at speed, concurrent with pedestrians on it, typically you would like to see at least like a 10-foot shared use path. So about twice as wide as what's there currently. There's also the potential for vehicle overhang to be considered because there's that angled parking that comes up right to the curb. So the first 2 feet or so adjacent to that curb isn't really usable for what that 10-foot width would be. So
I
it would
think there's a
certainly
grass
be
strip anyway.
right. So you wouldn't be able to take credit for that grass strip in your 10 feet, so to speak. So it would be 10 feet moving closer toward the park.
If we used wheel stops there, can we take credit for it?
Potentially, that's certainly an option to consider. It's, there's maintenance considerations with those too, but yes, it's on the table.
Don't forget the historic park. You start taking part of the land. That's gonna be
Well,
an issue.
that's another consideration, and that would take probably a big effort to do that.
Ironically, it would take away the bike parking they just installed on the grass.
I have a
Deb, I think you
question.
wanted to say something?
Can you, I know you don't have the drawings yet, but can you clarify a little bit, like which parking spots would go and where they are and how many?
Sure. So a couple of the different options we were kicking around, would be those shared use paths on one side of the road or the other. So that would be, outside the current vehicle travel way. So that wouldn't impact parking. However, the one that would keep it actually in the pavement would involve those, I believe there's 12 existing parallel parking spaces along the top of the page. Essentially, it would be removing those, shifting the one bike lane you do see closer to that direction into where that parking was, essentially shifting everything, the vehicle travel lane, the parking, everything to that side. So that at the bottom of the page, you can put a nice protected northbound bike lane, similar to what you saw on the previous block.
And that would be along the curb, correct?
Correct. And we have these curb extensions for these crosswalks to contend with. That would be sort of in the way of those. So there would need to be modifications to those islands to allow the bikes to pass through.
Mhm.
So what would we'd be eliminating those parallel spots on the village side?
Correct.
Yes.
So 12 spots. So that would mainly impact commuters because, I mean, in theory, the village, people don't park there to go shopping in the village during the weekdays.
Park
'cause
there all the time to go to the village. That's
Mhm.
where I
Yeah.
park. Anybody.
Yeah, and we were looking at some other opportunities to maybe pick up a few spaces in other sections of this block. It would not be enough to offset that entire row, but the net loss would be something less than that total row.
Mr. Downey, if we were able to widen the sidewalk to a full 10 feet, is that also another consideration? I mean, that would keep the parking, right? We wouldn't impact the parking at all. And we could at least continue the bike lane in the northern direction.
Right. Yeah. I mean, if there's the ability to provide a two-way bike facility totally outside of the pavement, that's great. That's the most protected for cyclists also. So that's definitely on the table. Just it's a larger construction effort. A lot of what we've seen, especially on the north block and the central block, was really just signing and striping. It's fairly inexpensive improvements. This is a real project.
If we were to install curb stops along that row of parking, then in theory, we could take advantage of the grass strip, convert that to concrete. That would provide us a 6 to 7 foot wide sidewalk, and then we could go an extra 3 to 4 feet on the easterly end, widening it to a full 10 feet.
Right. Yeah, there's definitely opportunity to shift the parking either by way of restriping or wheel stops to use that 2 feet to reduce that 2 feet encroachment toward the park.
Right. Okay.
So if we set a goal of getting bikes to the train station, would we have accomplished that with this design? Just say that our goal was to stop the bike to the train station, or stop the lanes to the train station. Would we achieve that goal with this design?
I would say partially. I would think we'd still want a bike lane going in the northerly direction from Baker.
No, you're missing the point. Okay, I'm sorry. If you're coming from Jefferson with this design, can you get to the train station?
Yes.
Okay. So the major hangup here is from the train station south, correct?
Yes.
Mhm.
All right. So one option here is to phase this, is to figure out how to, do what we can do based on what's what we have and what's possible without doing a lot of construction work, and also the layers of approval once you start dealing with Memorial Park, that we might want to address this in phase 1, phase 2, because phase 1 can be done relatively quickly. Right? That requires parking changes by us and some just redesign within curb to curb. That's correct?
From Oakland to Oakview, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, from Jefferson to the train station, essentially.
So we haven't talked about the reduction in parking on that section.
But I don't think there is there? Except for the on Jefferson, all the way at the end.
No, I think there's. it
Yeah,
looks-
so this northernmost block, yeah, one sheet further down.
The next, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, so there's a mix of parking along one side of the road only here. So the top side on this image, the southbound direction, has a mix of permit parking spaces and 2-hour parking spaces on school days out there signed. So that along the top side would be eliminated under this plan.
Right, and then there's commuter parking down at the corner of Jefferson and that first house.
So how many spaces do we lose?
We don't have an itemized count because they're not individual spaces and there's driveways in there, so it's not a clean calculation. We
Right.
could provide an estimated number, but I don't have that at the moment.
Yeah.
Dave, can you go down to the corner of Jefferson there? Thank you. So there's about 7 spots that between that house there and Jefferson that park on the train side. And those are commuters. Those are permit commuter spots. So we would definitely lose those.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I just feel like it's worthwhile mentioning that if we make it safer for people to bike to the train station, less people might drive to the train station and need parking.
Right. So this section here, there's enough, with the elimination of parking, there's enough road width to have it 2 lanes with parking on, with a bike lane on either side, correct?
I'm gonna say yes to that with an asterisk. So this has, you see striped bike lanes along the 2 sides of the road. Because of the existing width of the road, which is fairly narrow, generally it's about 28 feet. It actually pinches closer to 26 in some areas. There's not enough width to provide a center line down the road. So this is what's called advisory bike lanes. It's permitted by the FHWA as kind of a new trial basis measure. It is akin, I'll paint a good analogy, which is on a residential street. When there's a residential street with parking on both sides, often what's left down the middle is not enough for 2 cars to pass each other necessarily. The same would be true here. Instead of parked vehicles, it would be those bike lanes. So in the scenario where there's vehicles traveling both directions, one or both of them, assuming it's clear of bikes, will actually divert temporarily, partially into those bike lanes to pass each other, because there's only about a 16-foot section left down the middle.
And this approach was approved through DOT or is under consideration?
Yeah, it's an approved measure. It hasn't quite made its way into the METCD, but it's well documented. It's tried in other places. It seems pretty promising. It's just not fully adopted. And it has restrictions along with it for the speed and the volume to make sure you're not putting it in an inappropriate location, and this would be an appropriate location.
Sort of somewhere between a bike lane and like no bike lanes, sharrows, this, and then bike lane.
Sharrows would be the alternative for a road of this width, and we think this is a little bit better because it puts a little bit more of the emphasis on the cyclist rather than on the vehicle.
Yeah.
So I would like to put forth that we focus on the area between Jefferson and the train station as the next leg. And the reason being is, as I mentioned before, it doesn't require construction outside the curbs. It eliminates some commuter parking, some residential parking. And the way this design is now, if you go to the next slide, Dave, it still allows access to that Maplewood Family Medicine office building there. It allows people to come out Oakland, which is a signalized intersection with Valley, which is much safer than Jefferson. And even so anyway, I think this is a good design. The difficulty here is that the only access to the apartment building is to have to go around the block, the park at Maplewood, and then of course Nelson's garage is the same thing. The only access to Nelson's will be coming down Donnell. And so there's a lot of buy-in here that we have to go out and get. And I think there's enough work just to do this section. Between the residents on Donnell, the people who live in that apartment building, all those businesses that are in Nelson's, even the doctor's office there. Because, you know, their clients are going to have to maneuver around to get into that office.
And the Civic House with the Y.
And the Civic House, yes, thank you.
Mhm. Also, I thought when we asked for Dynamic to look at traffic counts on Donnell, it was between Oakland and Jefferson. I don't remember. Did we do any of that analysis between Oakland and Oakview?
So,
Yep.
no, I could just chime in. So we have a account at the intersection of Oakland and Donnell, you know, just off to the right of the page at the moment. So what we were looking at in that count was what's the northbound volume, essentially the volume that would be affected by this change. And it was fairly low. Peak hour volume was well under 100 peak hour vehicles, which is DOT's rough number is what they consider significant. So in terms of like the traffic impact of those redirected trips, it wouldn't really be perceptible on the adjacent roadway network. It's really going to just impact the people on this particular block.
What are the peak hours that you mentioned? Like what hours is that?
I believe it was the typical morning, evening commuting hours, but I could get you more specifics or, you know, provide you the counts.
So Patrick, that was between Oakland and Jefferson, no? Or just
It was at this intersection that we're looking at. So basically all of the turning movements at this particular always stop intersection. So
Mayor-
we looked at all the
That's
approach
the
coming
show.
from the left of the page.
We've been
That was the
talking
show
about
that-
making this one way Oakland to Oakview for a while in these meetings, I feel like.
No, I only remember it being one way from Jefferson. So that's
Oh, no. Yeah, we talked about this from Oakland to Oakview being one way.
right. It's a heavy lift, but
I would agree with what Mr. DeLuca is saying about focusing on this section to the train station. And also want to point out that even if we're just funneling people to the train station, we're also bringing them to the middle school because it's just a very quick walk. If we have bike racks, you can park your bike there and walk over to the middle school safely. So I liked that proposal while we figure out what to do with the rest of it from the train station to Baker in the
yeah,
future.
I'll go with that.
All right. So let's ask Mr. Kittner and the engineering team to focus a little bit more on this.
Sure.
And then we're going to have to lay out a strategy of public engagement. Once we know, it would be good to know, you know, if we're displacing any cars here. I don't think we are, but any parking in this section here. Doesn't look like it, but it's hard to know.
It should be very close to a wash. I will note that northbound section, just at the right edge, parking is generally prohibited in that section anyway, with the big striped area opposite the firehouse. So
Right.
ordinarily that might be a place we could lose some, but we're actually not under this plan because there's not parking there today.
Right, okay. All right, so let's, if we can you stop sharing, Dave? If we could agree to that, we can keep that as our target for moving this along. I think I have agreement from our committee members, yes?
Yeah.
Okay. Deputy Chief, do you have anything else you want to say about this, or you good? You getting your bicycle ready?
I'm ready. I'm ready to go.
All right.
Deputy
No.
Chief, Vic keeps trying to promote you to chief. I've noticed that at SEFD meetings and that.
Well, when the chief wasn't there, then, you know, he's it.
I fill in. That's
You're
my
the only
job.
chief here. You're the only chief here. So thank
I
you.
back up the chief when I need to.
All right.
Absolutely.
Okay. So
Yeah,
you
just,
can-
yeah, first I appreciate being here, because it will affect our operations a little bit, but like I said, I mean, I don't think it really impedes us too much. I mean, having a two-way there is nice. And, the only thing I'll say is for that office building, for that medical office building, it is a pretty busy building and we see it. The apartment building is not so busy. Nelson's, where it is not as busy, maybe as it used to be, but that medical building is pretty busy. So having a two-way there might make sense for the people going in and out all day.
Right.
Just my 2 cents on that. But as far as our operations, as long as, Denell out to Jefferson stays two-way, I think we'll be good.
Okay. Okay.
Vic, one more note about that parking lot is also like, I think we need to think about like signage or like a turnaround, because I feel like a lot of people are going to make a left accidentally and then all of a sudden it'll be in one way.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. Let's move on to our next item, and that is we got a request from Springfield Avenue Partnership about a reduction in the speed limit. Right now it's 35 miles an hour. Mr. Kittner, you have any thoughts on this?
Mr. DeLuca, thank you. Look, I mean, when I drive, I'm a very careful driver, and the older I get, the more careful I get. When you drive 35, this is just my opinion on Springfield Avenue, it feels like you're going fast because everything is squeezed. I feel as if when I'm driving 25 to 30 in that range, it feels better. But setting my feelings aside, we do have data on Springfield Avenue. I know Dynamics, retime the signals and we have certain data there. And I believe, I don't want to speak for them, they're here, but I believe at one point they had also suggested, reducing the speed limit to 30 miles an hour. That was a consideration. But I don't want to talk for them. They're here. So
Yeah, let's
Mr.
hear what they
Downey?
have to say.
Yeah, Paul, I can chime in on that. So when we did that Springfield Avenue traffic signal retiming project several years ago now, one of the things we need to do there is try to make sure the lights sync up, right? So you don't hit the red at every single one. You kind of want to hit the green wave. So an important piece of data to make that happen is to figure out what's the prevailing speed of vehicles. Like, what does this actually flow like? Considering the intersections, parking maneuvers, et cetera. When we did our travel time runs, driving back and forth, we found we were never really getting to 35 when we were going with the flow of traffic. So if we timed the signals for 35, it really wasn't appropriate to make it down the corridor efficiently. So we actually timed them for a 30-mile-per-hour speed because that's what felt right at that time. So I think some sort of adjustment down to 30 or 25 off the cuff makes sense. Further documentation is needed most likely, but I think the concept of it definitely aligns with what we saw when we looked at Springfield Avenue.
Paul, I know we took over jurisdiction of the avenue. I assume that this is our avenue to make that decision on speed limits, correct?
I believe it is. As a courtesy, we would probably send the data over to the county and also, if there's any timing directives that change as a result, that doesn't sound like there would be, but it's already been, phased into the timing directives. But if there were, we'd send that to the county as well. If there are any adjustments to the signaling, they would have to do it and they would bill us for it. But I don't believe we need their input to make this change.
Mayor Ms. Engel, what are your thoughts?
I'm in favor of reducing the speed limit on Springfield Avenue. We've been talking about traffic calming for a long time. It does feel like cars go too fast. It is a pedestrian retail space. I just think it should be lower. If we are looking at the timing of the signals, I think we should look at the one at Yale and Springfield Avenue, because oftentimes it doesn't turn to walk. So you get stranded on that corner for a long time. But yes, please reduce the speed limit.
Well, I like to drive fast, so but I'm fine with going to 30. I feel, Paul, Paul giving his feelings. I feel like I'm going too slow when I'm going too slow, but
That could be the Tesla effect too.
no, I've always been that way. I
Yeah,
would,
we did get a recommendation from the consultant from Main Street that we go down to 30 also, so. Yeah, I'm definitely in favor of going to 30. I think we're gonna raise this with the police chief at our public safety meeting tonight to get his opinion, just on an enforcement perspective, but my guess is that he would be in favor. I think, Mr. Weary, he's actually asked about this himself, right? Or someone has asked the police about this?
I don't recall, but I'll find out before tonight's meeting.
Yeah, okay. All right, so, I think this would be something we want to bring back to the entire township committee, so I'll put it on for discussion. And I'll put it on as a recommendation of our committee. All right, okay, here's a sticker shock one, the maintenance audit of the township traffic signals. We got, Mr. Kittner, we got some, news that we have to upgrade our traffic signals.
Well, we got news that there's some maintenance that's required on our traffic signals. And when I received this report, I wanted to send this to Dynamic to review and, provide some suggestions to us in terms of priority. Obviously, when you're talking about, reconstructing an entire signal, some of these approach $500,000 or more when you do that to bring them up to standards. And that's a considerable amount of money. It's something that we should capitally plan for. But I wanted, a Dynamics opinion on this and to provide some priorities for us. And I know, Mr. McCormick, you had a chance to look at this report. You're present now. Do you want to say a few things on this?
Yeah, certainly. Thank you, Paul. Good morning, everybody. Yeah, so this is a routine process where electrical contractor goes through the traffic lights and makes any recommendations for maintenance and or defaulted equipment. So we did get the list, Paul. I think it's about 13 pieces of equipment, 13 intersections. Some of them are full traffic signals. Some of them are the flashing beacons, the all-way stop beacons. Some of them are the school flashing signs. So we have a varied inventory here. And unfortunately, like Paul said, the inventory is getting a bit old. So what we did was we looked at the review from Gen Electric, and we basically prioritized the safety issues, and we prioritized the MUTCD compliance issues. And when you really boiled it down, there was not a lot of those issues identified. So essentially, the signals are operating safely. They're operating within the MUTCD. They may or may not be operating as efficiently as we might want, because there might be some push buttons or some vehicular detection that's not working up to snuff, but they are currently, for the most part, MUTCD compliant and safe. So there's a whole list at the back of your agenda. Every intersection or basically facility piece of equipment is identified. We have a short, brief synopsis of the notes of the inspection, and then we identified some short-term and or long-term improvements and tried to put a little down to it just to give some frame of reference. So
was this our own inspection? Did we ask, is this DOT, like who's?
This was Gen Electric, Mayor. It's part of their maintenance program that they have, and it's just a good idea to have this inspection done to make sure bulbs aren't burnt out, pedestrian crossing bulbs, etc., traffic signal bulbs, and they when they're there, they do a full review of the traffic signal itself.
This is JENN. It's a private company.
Right, but who directed them to do it? I'm just confused as to.
I directed them
You did.
to, because we have not done this in a long time, so it was overdue.
So we're not being directed by the state or anybody?
No.
that- Okay,
No, we elected this, yes.
okay.
But Paul, when we have a traffic light that goes out, that's who we call, Gen Electric, to come and fix it, correct?
Yeah, they're on Morris County Co-op and that helps us with public contracts law, but yeah, we direct them, and oftentimes it's the police directing them during late hours. So they're typically the people who are called. There's other outfits that the county uses for Springfield Avenue, but Gen Electric is what we typically use. I find them to be thorough and fair, and they don't gouge the township the fees, so they're pretty good to work with.
And,
So are
and,
these, oh, sorry.
oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna, are these priority are they laid out on this list?
I think Mary, I think there's a lot of low-level fruit that we can take care of and improve on for relative low cost. I think the reason I'm bringing this up is, we're talking about planning our budget for 2026, and, this is something that maybe we want to consider phasing into our budget, if not 2026, some point, beyond that in the future. I'm just bringing this to everyone's attention to start thinking about it.
Why, you didn't have enough capital projects you wanted to fund?
Yeah, I just need a few more. No, this is something I just feel like we can't, it's something that we shouldn't delay for a long time. I think it's something we got to start thinking of, addressing.
Do we
Well, in
need
the-
the $10,000 now to do the school warning flasher? Like if we talk about priorities, I don't know, that feels like.
Yeah, and these are right now my budget's low for traffic calming. I'll check my budgets to see if I can afford these projects. We've used a lot of money on Parker Avenue and our traffic calming. But if we don't have the funds, we're certainly going to implement that in our capital budget that we're going to present.
Paul, are
Yes.
any of the Prospect Street lights included in the redo of Prospect Street?
The lights themselves, I think there was a timing directive, the change in that. Mr. Downey, do you know offhand? I believe.
No, I don't mean for the bike lanes. I mean for when we repave Prospect. Are any of the lights included in that or not?
No.
Okay.
No. You talking about reconstruction of the signals? No.
No. Yeah, okay. All right. So you're alerting us, and you're gonna work on this, come up with a priority, and we might see some of this starting to be sprinkled in capital requests next year.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Let's move on to so you gave us an answer on the complete streets, Tech TA from Sustainable Jersey. Thank you. School traffic. So Columbia High School, what is the status of the no drop-off signs?
So to be honest with you, I don't know if do we have a final sign that we want to use there? I know we talked about the A-frame signs.
I got the final language that we're gonna put up, because it's different depending on the location. And it was a result of the ordinance that we just passed, so I have the final language and we'll get those signs. I just got it yesterday.
So, Mr. Wary, I'll work with you on getting the proper signs ordered.
Okay. And then can you give us an update on the paving by New Jersey American Water?
So the milling was supposed to happen today in front of CHS on Parker between Maplewood Ave and Prospect, but the contractor had a personnel issue that they had to push till tomorrow. So the milling is going to occur between Maplewood Ave and Prospect for Parker Ave. It's going to occur Thursday. The school's been notified, and we have a VMS board out. And contractors also distributed flyers, hand delivered them. And the paving is going to occur Friday.
Okay.
So at the end of that, we'll have a freshly paved road. Our contractor is out working on Parker Ave, or is planning on doing that, excuse me, in the near future. There's a lot of ramp upgrades that have to be done. But, you know, they're looking at actually striping the road straight edge towards the end of November, right before Thanksgiving.
Okay, and that's who the striping is, straight edge?
Straight edge, yes,
When we see them in Atlantic City, we can mention it to them.
absolutely.
All right. Okay, so the middle school kids won. Thank you to engineering for your help on this. Seth Boyden, let's talk about the we said we were going to have a meeting with the superintendent and the principal, and we did. We had the police there, engineering, administration. We had on the school side, we had security, maintenance. We had a whole team from the school and the district there. So can you put up what we've come up with to propose to the school? We looked at a number of different ways to deal with drop-offs on the campus itself, and we've come up with this one.
Do you want me to explain this, Mr. DeLuca?
Yes, please.
All right, so, yeah, as Mr. DeLuca said, we had a field meeting. I think, it was a, you know, strong contingent of people, you know, that can make decisions for the school. And, you know, after looking at the existing conditions, looking at the topography that is out there, looking at the structures, it seems as if, you know, a drop-off area between Jacoby and Henry Place should be considered for the school. And that's essentially what you see before you. Dave, can you zoom in a little more? Okay, thank you. So, Mr. Downey's here. They prepared the sketch. They can go into some detail. But in essence, our thought was if we're able to make a connection point between Jacoby and, you know, exit vehicles and Henry Place, there's a significant grade difference just to the left of the drawing. And, you know, that avoids major construction there, major grading. There are some impacts to this design. There's a playground facility, swings and whatnot that would be impacted, that would have to be moved. I know, Mike, you had looked into some of these costs and some of this effort. You could maybe talk about that briefly, but there's also some trees that are probably 10 years old or so that would have to come out and get removed. That would be followed up with some plantings along the property line that's shared with the residential houses. But we envision, you know, 2 lanes. Now, right now we have it drawn as 12-foot lanes. Mr. Downey or Mr. McCormick, do you think, you know, the 12-foot lanes are necessary? Is that something that we could consider reducing to maybe 10-foot lanes, if we had to, just to reduce the impact to the school?
Yeah, I think there's certainly room to adjust really all the dimensions on this plan. It's really just at a conceptual level showing the 2 lanes, but yeah, to both for cost considerations and impact reductions, you could certainly pinch those lanes a bit from what they are now.
Okay, so maybe we have 2 10-foot lanes or 2 11-foot lanes and an 8-foot sidewalk. That's a possibility, right? If we wanted to reduce the scoping. You know, the cost is affected by this. Obviously, we're looking at anywhere from $300,000 to $500,000 of cost. You're essentially extending a roadway, and you know, there's a lot of work involved. There's drainage considerations, there's landscape considerations, and obviously the cost of the road itself. There would be a fence that would be located just outside the walkway that would prevent smaller children from just entering the drop-off area. But looking at this, it seems as if, you know, this could be done in an orderly fashion, and it's the most direct, most efficient way of doing this. Obviously, the residents on Henry Place have to be considered, and, you know, there's got to be a discussion there to talk to them. There is a fairly large tree on the corner where it bends around, where we'd want to save that tree. There's another evergreen tree that's on the interior of the school property that would most likely have to be removed. I don't think we could save that tree. So these are all considerations. We did walk the site yesterday, looked at drainage implications. Because we're increasing impervious, there's gonna be more runoff. And, we did come up with ways to mitigate that. But when all is said and done, you're looking at 300 to 400 to, depending on what dimensions we finalize, up to $500,000 for this. Mr. Downey, do you want to add anything else to this discussion?
No, I think you provided a great introduction. I think, the spirit of what this improvement's trying to accomplish, just for everybody's reference, is to bring an activity that's a little bit messy and hectic out on the public roadways, particularly on Boyden, into the school property, make it safer, more orderly, etc. So that's the goal this is trying to accomplish. But it is a large project also, so that has to be weighed hand in hand on the township's end.
Deborah?
So it looks very like car focused. I'm just thinking we talk about bike lanes or we talk about kids. How do kids bike to South Boyden? Because Boyden is not really safe. And so I just feel like if we're doing a new drop-off things, we want to consider the bike network plan and how we get kids to bike to school.
Danny,
I can respond for
Jacoby-
this plan particularly. That's the intent of the very wide sidewalk area you see there that's 10 feet wide on the top side. Really to not have the bikes even in the pavement, they would be fully separated up, above the curb, away from the vehicles.
So that would be like a bike lane.
I would call it essentially a shared use path.
Shared
It's really just a wide area for both pedestrians and for cyclists.
Yeah.
But the limits of this improvement we're looking at are the property itself. It's not necessarily touching on bike lanes on the adjacent roads. Not that it couldn't be done, it's just not part of this effort.
Is Jacoby Street part of our bike network plan that was considered? Do you recall?
I don't recall, but as the conversation continues, I can check and I'll let you know.
All right, was Boyden part of that bike network? No.
I think Boyden almost certainly was.
Okay.
Yeah, we looked at a couple of different options. One was to widen the path in front. One was to connect the entrance off of Boyden and make this an exit off of Jacoby, making this road connect to Boyden. But the grade differential is, as Paul said, is huge, and it would be costly to deal with that. So this was another option to try to just remove the whole drop-off thing, or a good portion of the drop-off thing, from the front of the building to the back of the building, just to bring kids onto the campus itself. Now, this does impact our residents because we're now dropping off a lot more cars onto Henry Place in a short period of time.
Yes.
They're going to, I don't know, you can't show Brown there, can you? I don't think Brown's on the map. Yeah, so they're gonna come down Henry and then they're gonna make a left or a right on Brown. So there's gonna be additional traffic on Brown itself. So
And it's going to get backed up because it's hard to make a left off of Brown over there on Boyden.
yeah. Although I don't know if, I see we have arrows there. Right now, Brown is not one way, and I'm not sure we want to make it one way, but that's something to talk about. We have not presented this to the school yet because we wanted to bring it here first. This would be a school expense. But because of the impact on the residents, we wanted to test it here first, and then share it with the school.
Did you guys talk about this kind of traffic plan at that meeting? Like, were they like, oh, that's a good idea to do it in the back, or is this just a new
Yes.
concept?
No. This is actually the one that we all kind of settled on.
And you just said the school budget has to pay for it. We
Or
don't.
the district.
Would we split it or something? I don't think the school district is gonna have money to do this kind of project.
Well, I don't know if we have money to do it either. So, yeah,
Either way, it's taxpayer
taxpayer money. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have a lot of concerns about the residents over there. I know they've been frustrated for years anyway with parking over there and the confusion that happened. So I don't know if this would be better or worse.
Well, this would the parking would take place on the school grounds. So presumably this would just be, once people leave the school grounds, they're not parking, they're just driving. And you know, what Sergeant DeFazio, you know, we talked about, maybe we, you know, have no parking on Henry, you know, early school hours or something like that.
I think the K turns on Henry Place were also problematic, that people were making because it was a dead end. It is a dead end. So this would eliminate a lot of that. I
Yeah,
think.
Henry would be, we would have a barricade put there at the corner of Brown so that no one could go in there and drop off their kids, so.
Right.
I mean, we're really still at the conceptual stage. This would take a lot more conversation with everyone, but right now what we have is just not sustainable. Dumping all those cars and, you know, getting people dropping off in front of the school is just not working.
So when would, I mean, it feels like we do need to talk to the people on Henry Place and Brown Street. So would that happen concurrently with talking to the school district?
Well, I think the first step would be to give it to the school district with sort of a ballpark to see if they're even interested in having that second conversation.
And if anyone from Henry Place or Brown Street is watching this meeting or hears about this or it still comes up somewhere, they can reach out.
Yeah, you know, it's right now it's just conceptual. So, you know, right now people are using Brown Street to drop off their kids and park their cars. So this may actually help because we're going to be creating a parallel road that is designed for drop-offs. Doesn't have curb cuts, doesn't have driveway entrances. So I don't know how many cars we can. Have you figured that out, Paul or Patrick Downey, as to how many cars can actually fit on this drop-off area?
The queue. Pat,
Yeah.
do you know offhand that?
Not specifically. I think another thing to consider too is whether or not this would ever potentially need to accommodate a bus or not. Currently, it's really envisioned for passenger cars. But
Yeah, no, I think that's it. The buses
Yeah.
are covered by the driveway in the front.
Just taking a quick measurement here.
Pat,
Well,
rough and dirty,
measures.
we're looking at 6 to 8 cars at a time for drop off.
I was thinking 8
Yeah, I think it's
cars.
even a little bit more than that, maybe 8 to 10 based on that length with that right curb line.
So it's a pretty I think you can move a lot of cars there.
Yeah, it's a pretty good length for that type of operation.
And having
And,
having the bypass lane allows people to do that.
right. And
Wow.
one thing that works out well here, just in terms of the geometry, is the most desirable location is all the way at the front of the line. That's the closest to the school. It's often a challenge when the most desirable location somewhere earlier, because then people don't use the full length of the curb line. They never go past, you know, spot number one. Here, we would get full use of that full curb line, which would be pretty efficient.
And just going back to Brown and Henry, and you were just talking about maybe parking restrictions during early hours or whatever. We just passed the overnight parking and there's 2-family housing in that area too. So I just think we need to be mindful of the people who might be parking on those streets overnight.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, there's enough, you know, and maybe we do it one side of the street, so anyone who has an overnight parking gets, you know, parks on that side. I think it's really just looking at Henry Place. But I think we're far from any of this. This is going to take a while. Knowing how the school works, you know, they have to, even if they agree to this, they would have to find the resources to do it. I mean, it's going to be a cost-benefit analysis for them.
Well, I'm in favor of you moving forward and continuing conversations if that's what you're looking for.
Yeah, that's what I was just about to ask, is it okay we can release this to the school? Then we'll do that.
I just think you should, in the language, talk about, because I just feel like it's going to get out there somewhere. People are going to hear about it. So we should just say,
Yep.
we're going to talk to residents or what, get ahead of it before they're being like, they're talking about all this stuff and they're not even considering us.
Yep. Okay. Okay, can we go to the next, the daylighting of Tuscan Street and Boyden Avenue?
Yeah. Do you want me to talk about this, Mr. DeLuca?
Yep.
Okay, so a couple years back, we obviously made pretty significant improvements to this intersection. We had restricted some parking near the intersection of Tuscan. We had moved the crosswalk from the south side to the north side where it is now as it's shown. And we actually moved the push button head signs that were blinkers. We had moved those signs as well. And at the time, we had put in-street pedestrian signage. But the thought was to try to enhance this and provide more safety improvements to this intersection. And that's the sketch you see before you. So what we envision is basically bump outs that are delineated with like a bollard structure, for example, and colorized pavement. It gives a visual to the drivers and it provides some refuge for children and the crossing guard, for example. So it provides a refuge for people to gather while they're planning on crossing. It also squeezes the lanes a little more, provides emphasis with the physical barriers to slow cars down. And, you know, in the past, it seems like cars still go through this intersection pretty quickly. So, you know, that would be addressed. The good thing about this is that I don't think there's any drainage improvements that are required as a result of this because we're not putting in physical curb bump outs here. It's simply striped. And I think there's examples at the bottom of this drawing on different locations where it was implemented. So that is, you know, upgrading to rapid flashing beacon would also catch a driver's attention. You know, that's also a significant safety hazard, safety improvement, excuse me. And I think that the combination of all these improvements would, you know, enhance the safety of this intersection.
So it's not
Thoughts, anyone?
concrete, it's just bollards and striping. Is that what you just said?
Bollard striping and colorized pavement and the rapid flashing beacon, yes.
Because
Beacon.
Tuscan Road is on the bike network plan, right? So I just want to make sure.
Mr. Downey?
Yeah, so actually, if you can pan a little bit down on the page, Dave, just to see some of those examples that might help illustrate it. It's trying to get all the benefits of the bump outs without some of the drawbacks of the fact that once you introduce new raised curbs, it's a little bit more committal. You're pinching the road, and it also impacts existing drainage patterns in those gutters. So it can really add up in terms of cost when you need to move inlets, shift drainage pipes, things like that. So this doesn't interrupt any of that existing drainage pattern. It just provides the additional pedestrian safety in the form of something a little bit more decorative. We showed it as red in the main view above, just to illustrate that it would be colorized in some form or fashion. That could be whatever type of color or design the township would desire.
Is that regulated, the color of that bump out? I mean, do we have flexibility there?
Very good question. I think you'd get a different answer depending on who you ask. Certainly in New Jersey, it's become fairly common, as you can see it, at least in this central example, to make them decorative elements, sometimes get actual enhanced community engagement to make a project out of it, some type of art piece or something school related, et cetera. So there's a lot of precedent in New Jersey for doing more decorative elements like that.
That's what I'd be interested in, working with the South Boyden School community to maybe do something.
So let's go back to the intersection picture, Dave. Thank you. Yeah, I'd be interested in doing some daylighting here and figuring, you know, this is something you would include in your 2026 budget?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I still think that there's a lot of stuff going on here and the, you know, to the degree that we can make this a better intersection for crossing. We're going to improve pedestrian walking. We're going to improve people walking, the safety of that and all that. So.
Yeah, I agree. I'm for it.
Mayor, you got any thoughts?
No, I like it. I like doing a decorative, something fun at that
Yeah.
school. That would be nice. Not, I didn't like Jersey cities, but you know, so.
All right. So yeah, let's keep this on the drawing board and let's move forward with some ideas. And then what about, how are we doing with the replacement of the quick curb up at the top of the street that was taken out for the paving?
So we reached out to the manager of the project, Amalia Farrow, and he's represented to us that he's working with Straight Edge on getting that replaced, and that should be done in the near future. We've been, you know, this has been something that we've been trying to get done for quite some time. It's not from a lack of trying. You know, many contractors are famous for getting to the 95th percent mark on a project, and then the last 5% takes forever to actually finish it and get it implemented. So it's always a tug of war, but we'll get that addressed one way or the other.
Okay. Dave, you can stop sharing. Thank you. Okay, let's just go down these other things real quick, Paul. Colgate and Tuscan crosswalk.
We're gonna build that in the 2026 budget.
Okay, the high intensity lights at Tuscan and Oakland, did we say we were putting them in there behind the library there?
So yes, we talked about that, and that's also a 26 budget item.
Okay, and the Jacoby and Boyden Avenue high intensity lights?
We actually incorporated that in the traffic calming, so we're looking at getting that done in the next 2 weeks. They'll be implemented.
Okay, just so at election day, I was approached by a number of people there about that.
Mhm.
We're still having people coming up the hill from Stuyvesant. They come up very fast. They get to that curve at Menzel. People are having a difficult time pulling out of Jacoby Street. So we need to put that back on our thoughts as to how we can do some traffic calming there.
Okay. We'll certainly look at that.
And then the other thing is people are still concerned about folks who are on Burnett when they get to Rutgers, they're not stopping. And the suggestion was, what's the possibility of putting a four-way red blinking light there?
I think we have 2 now in the Rutgers approaches, but we can add at the Burnett approaches, excuse me, we could add 2 to the Rutgers
No,
approach.
I'm talking about, I'm sorry, I meant the overhead.
Oh, overhead?
Yeah,
Well, we could build that into the budget. You know, that's a more sizable cost. I mean, you're talking about a foundation, running electric, and you know, the arm itself. I mean, Mr. Downey, what would something like that cost for a double blinker overhead like that nowadays?
I don't know that we've done a recent one of those. John, do you know off the top of your head? I mean, it's certainly less than a full signalization of the intersection. It's really 1 pole and mast arm as opposed to 4. So,
I mean, it's got to be in the 50,000 range.
yeah, that feels.
You know, foundation pole, arm, the head itself, and the installation.
I was even thinking north of that, but yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it's costly, right? Either way, it's
It's
costly.
less than 100. You're right. It might be more than 50.
Okay,
so could you take a look at that, Paul, and
yes.
assess whether or not you know, I don't know what the crash data is, but I think it's not so much the crash data, but that people in that area feel the near misses. Is that's
Okay.
what's, and you know, what we get is our residents are using Rutgers a lot. They're coming up Rutgers, and folks are, and maybe it's just the way they're coming down from Union or even from Springfield. It's just a clear shot again. And they don't anticipate that stop sign there and they're blowing through it. Okay.
Sure.
Prospect Street, I know we approved the contract with Dynamic for a lot of stuff, so just give us a timeline on that. And I saw that there was some evaluation of a full traffic light at Prospect and Oakview.
Well, let me first say we have Roberts Engineering doing the actual municipal aid application, those plans. I've asked Dynamic to supplement a plan set with some striping depending on what we're gonna do. You know, I think the plan was to, you know, implement or consider bike lanes on Prospect, and, you know, I think we have to decide, you know, how we would roll that out to the public as well.
Well, we haven't decided on that yet, Paul.
No, I understand, but
Okay.
that's what we're proposing right now, engineering, so. Well, my only point is, if we're looking to build this in 26. I think the winter is probably a good time to work that out, right? And figure that out, because we want to probably bid this publicly in the spring, for a summer construction. So if that's the game plan, these are just some details we have to work out.
Okay.
Did
But we
you,
haven't had any conversation internally about what our goals are. I mean, Prospect Street is a very long stretch,
Yes, it is.
and we have houses of worship there without parking lots, at least 3 of them, actually 4 of them. And it's very narrow when you get on the other side of Springfield. So we need to have a pretty significant conversation about this.
Yes, agreed. In terms of the always stop at Oakview or any of the other intersections, Mr. Downey, you want to talk about that?
Yeah, so as part of that effort, Paul mentioned that we're assisting Roberts Engineering. We're going to take a look at always stop potential at a couple intersections, Prospect and Oakview being one of them. If any of them appear warranted and the committee wants to go forward with them, those would be incorporated into the final striping package.
I didn't hear a full, I thought you said, Paul, like a full signalized intersection at Oakview? No, right?
No, always stop, I think is.
Yeah, I think I said that, but I didn't mean, I misspoke. Deborah?
I just want to thank Mr. Kittner for bringing up bike lanes on Prospect Street. And we did talk about this like end of last year when we were talking about Parker. We said we were going to consider bike lanes on Prospect Street when the repaving came. So I'm just curious, we kind of just like moved past it. So I understand that we have to have a lot of community conversations. There's a lot of obstacles on Prospect, just like there was or challenges, just like there was on Parker. But it does feel like now is the time to start having those conversations. So I'm just curious, like what we can do to do that.
Well, we have to see the proposed design. We haven't seen anything from engineering first. So we need to get a scope. I thought we were going to have, we were going to spend this year kind of framing out the ideas, but we kind of spent a lot of time on other areas, and that's fine. But there, as opposed to Parker, where we kind of got a sense that that's what we were moving, I think we've got to take a look at Prospect and understand the various sections of it and what we're trying to accomplish. We haven't really had that conversation yet.
So when do we start?
Here.
Right. So
Well, once we get something, once we hear a recommendation from our engineers and what it means and what, how are they treating various segments of the road. To say you're going to put bike lanes on Prospect, what does that mean? The whole thing, part of it, all of it? Are we doing cutouts like we did for the Jewish Center? Things like that.
Mr. Luke, I'm sure that's something we could present, this winter. We could go over that. I don't know if we'll have it for the next meeting, but certainly we'll present it this winter, and we'll have a concept sketch to work off of.
Right, Deb, hi, this is John. Just so you know, we're gonna put together a data collection plan where, just like Parker, where we had volumes, we had speed, and we had parking demand, most importantly. So we have to pull all that stuff together starting now. So we're in the infancy of our data collection, but we don't want to come to you with a concept that has no data behind it.
I understand that, and I appreciate that.
And so when you're doing those parking counts or traffic counts, because we were talking before about the prime hours, like I think on Prospect Street, prime hours might be different because you have the church with the preschool, you have the weekend access.
Yep, we're not only doing the commuter morning, we do 2 to 6 on the weekday to pick up all the school activity, between 2, 3, and 4. And then we pick up the commuters between 4, 5, and 6. And we are focusing on Sunday. That is part of our proposal because we know the churches on Prospect are a very important consideration. So we're going to have a full complement of data that includes Sunday as well, which is not typical for us, but that is what this corridor requires.
Good. Okay.
And I think you should maybe look till 7 p.m. because there's still a lot going on Prospect Street between 6 and 7 p.m. and it's very dark.
Duly noted.
Okay. Paul, I put this picture in the, on the agenda, about too close to corner. This is in Union where they actually stripe the road and put no parking there. You know, we put those signs up by stop signs that say, you know, no parking within 50 feet. First of all, people don't know what 50 feet is. And so I like this, you know, painting the curb sometimes doesn't work because they don't understand what that is. I think the norms of driving are gone. And parking, people just do what the hell they want. I'm not even sure people understand, you know, that you can't park at the corner. So I like this, and I'd like to get your thoughts, not right now, but on maybe kind of putting this in at some critical corners.
Yeah, I think if we have repeat offenders and they, you know, people, certain areas are worse than others. Obviously, there's some critical areas where we want that no parking within 50 feet of that stop sign. So, you know, I think in those areas, it might make sense to do an enhanced treatment such as this. So we'll certainly look at that and we'll
Right.
give you our recommendation.
Okay. Parker Avenue bike lanes. So you told us that the striping is going to be done by the end of November.
Yes, it's starting November 24th is the current schedule. They have to give time to get the ramps done and the concrete work done before they stripe. It's best to do that.
Okay, and we've moved forward with a P parking permit that allows the residents on Parker to park on the side streets. Okay, D Hart, where are we on the design, cost, timeline?
So I have a draft plan in front of me right here. I'm almost done marking it up. I'm going to provide that to VHB, our consultant. There was actually a Survey Monkey that's out on the street now.
Right.
I want to thank Melissa Mancuso and Mr. Weary for assisting with getting that out. But it asks, you know, questions in terms of ancillary uses. The public was concerned with, you know, too much emphasis on the field and not the ancillary uses. So that's the purpose of the Survey Monkey, is to try to get those answers. As soon as we get that, we can provide guidance to VHB. They can finalize their plan set with the ancillary uses considered. I do expect that there's going to be a little back and forth in terms of the ancillary uses. But you know, my expectation is by early spring, we'll have a completed plan set that's ready to be publicly bid. And we would put that out to the, you know, out on the streets for bids.
And our target to start construction will still be the fall?
It could be earlier than that. I think if we're able to, you know, get this on the street, get this on the street and, you know, certainly could be summer. It could be early summer if we wanted to. I think there's obviously a bond ordinance that has to be passed for the cost of the project. And, you know, depending on what ancillary uses we select, that would affect the cost. I think once we have that, we can finalize the cost estimate as well.
So just on scheduling, let's make sure we work real closely with community services so that everybody's aware of what's possible. Some you know, sort of a time when we say it's not going to be available, and if we extend it, we extend it. But let's pick a date that we say no more, that we expect construction to start, and we can always adjust that. And
Okay.
Patrick Weary, where are we with bonding plan?
And when we have a finalized cost estimate, we'll, you know, speak with our bond counsel and we'll bring forward a bond ordinance. We, you know, if that is now, we can, you know, I don't, December might be a little tough, but, you know, we could still get it on for December if we're ready in December. It could get pushed as late as the 2026 budget cycle when we do all the rest of those, although that money usually becomes available for award in June, so that might be a little bit late for us.
You know, this has got to be separate so that we have that money.
Yeah. As we think about bonding, we have some money left over in the open space from last year that was unspent. And we also will have new money that we raised this year. I think it raises about $500,000 a year. So, you know, this fits in the intent of open space. And, you know, when we discuss the total for the bond ordinance, we should have a discussion on what amount, if any, is appropriate to use from open space.
Okay.
Do we have an estimate of what we're talking? Are we around 2 million for reconstruction of this field?
We're looking at 2.75 million to 3 million in that range, Mayor.
Okay, any other questions on this?
Since I mentioned open space, we have about $250,000 from previous, and we raised about $600,000 a year in new open space money.
Okay. Mr. Kittner gave us a memo on Cottage Court, so it's there in case anybody has any questions. You can talk to him. We're gonna try to get things done in about 10 minutes here and then open it up and see if anybody has anything to say. Public buildings, how are we doing with the heat pump at the police? I know you're going through hurdles with DEP, I mean, the BPU and what have you, but.
Well, I'm hopeful that the application process has been worked out. We recently signed off on the on the documents and submitted that to Dave Titus of the BPU. So we're waiting for him to get back to us, but we're hopeful that that'll be squared away. I have not heard from him when we could actually go out to bid, but we do have plans that are ready to be publicly bid, and you know, that could be pulled together very quickly. So I'm hopeful that, you know, I'm hopeful by the end of the year, we'll be on the street with this, at least publicly bidding this.
Okay. And you still think costs are gonna come in favorably?
I hope so. I think, you know, we were shocked by some of the pricing that we looked at with the heat pumps, but, you know, we did account for some extra money in this year's budget, I think, and, you know, we should be okay there, I think, in terms of funding. I think we'll
Okay.
have sufficient funds.
All right. Anything on town green? Let's go to the Woodland, the door replacement. You have a picture for us?
We do have a picture, Mr. Barry.
Out of all the things we've talked about since like my campaign to now, the woodland doors is like the ever constant thing.
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is.
You know, one thing Ellen Davenport said that when she left is that she never thought she'd be talking about parking as much as she's done. So we've talked about parking a lot too. Rivals the door.
Bike lanes rival it too.
It's a little different though. Those are like, you know, but doors.
Yes, doors is right. Yeah. So this is it. So tell us about it. What do we got here?
So the side lights and doors have been restored, as you could see. The trim was obviously updated. I think the contractor did a nice job with the work. Obviously, it took a much longer than we anticipated. You know, but I think the final product is, I would hope, is what the township is looking for in terms of a look. And I think it certainly does it justice. The building, you know, the look, it's clean and, you know, functions properly. I think the idea is we learned a lot from this. We certainly want to speak with the architect, Margaret, and get her thoughts on it, because you know, our hope is to use this as a blueprint for the other doors. And at the end of the day, I think this door cost us just under $20,000, 19 and change, which is less than the 46 that, you know, we publicly bid with the prior plan. So
Okay.
it's a significant difference.
What about the, what's the impact on this door, for example, where the aluminum siding to come off the walls?
You know, Mayor, I think there were sections that we exposed, and Margaret did observe those, but I didn't specifically talk to her about the siding and taking that off. So that's a separate conversation I'd want to have with her, and I can report back to us.
I think that needs to be a conversation that's had sooner than later, especially if these doors newly installed will be impacted by the removal of the aluminum siding. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, I'm happy to call her and we could have that conversation quickly, and I'll get you an answer.
And thank you, Dave. You can stop sharing the door. Patrick, where are we on the state grant for the Woodland?
We received notice that it was recommended. The state hasn't approved it, though. That's, they say at this point, just, you know, perfunctory. So we're waiting for that. In the meantime, I know Margaret's starting to think about exactly what we need to go out to bid for the those amounts. That we already have the money set aside for matches, so really it's just us bidding out the work with I think it's about $750,000 that we got.
Okay.
We need
I don't think, what'd you say?
Do we need dynamic here?
No, I was just about to say, I don't think we have
I know.
anything else that we need dynamic for. If you guys want to, thank you for coming on. You were very helpful today.
Thank you.
Hey,
Thanks.
thanks,
for having us.
everybody.
Take care.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thanks.
Have a good day.
Okay, so that's all going to be teed up in 2026, the rest of that work? Okay.
Yeah.
Let's go to anything on the field assessment? Mike Haran? We're doing a fields assessment?
Are you referring to the fields at Maple Crest Park?
I don't know that all of our fields are supposed to be assessed. We were having some group do it.
Yeah, so we narrowed this down a bit. We have a lot of fields and we wanted to focus on 3 of them at Maple Crest
Okay.
in the first effort. So Mike is working on that. You can give the update, Mike, on Maple Crest.
Well, we've met with a contractor a couple of weeks back. As Mr. Weary just indicated, that we're looking to redo the 3 baseball fields at Maple Crest Park. I do not believe that this person is under any co-op or state contract, so I would imagine that the project itself would have to go out to bid in the future. That's basically all I have on that. We do have a contractor lined up to replace the 3 backstops at Maple Crest Park. I just sent him over the signed proposal yesterday, I believe. So I'm hoping to get that project done and completed by the end of the year. Hopefully the next couple of weeks will come out and start that.
And how are we doing with the playground? Any update on it? The all access playground?
Yeah, we have final plans that we will submit to DEP this week for their approval. And we received a grant from the equipment manufacturer. And in order to get that money, we need to award this year. So we'll likely award the contract for the purchase of that equipment this year, and then they'll also do some of the site work, and then because it's on state contract, it makes it, we can do it pretty quickly as soon as the DEP approves, and then we will subsequently go out for all the rest of the work that we can't get under state contract. So this will be a little bit in pieces, but it's being done that way to get state contract pricing and to get to utilize the grant that's available from the manufacturer.
And if I could just add, I think at the last meeting, we talked about there being some contamination on site. We did have a meeting with DEP and Green Acres, and Mr. Weary, I think you were there, and I thought it was a favorable meeting for us. The goal is to not tie the existing ongoing groundwater sampling to the funding reimbursement. So DEP was planning on writing a letter to Green Acres to that end. So hopefully we can forego a full cleanup before we get reimbursement. So
Okay.
And we may need a little bit more money for the project, not much. I have to take another look at it. We just got the most recent estimate last week. So if we do, we'd likely package that with the DeHart Park and just do that together. But we'll have enough money to award this year what we need to award this year.
Okay. Maple Terrace, I know we're hammering DEP to get us that approval. I saw an email from Fred today, Fred Shear. Any update, Paul?
yeah, so Jessica Klein is the contact at DEP for the wetlands mitigation, and this has to go before the mitigation council. And what we're trying to do is just, instead of having to spend all the time and money on their typical checklist requirements, because the size of the mitigation is only 0.041 acres of wetlands mitigation, we're asking DEP to talk with the council to try to just accept, you know, a monetary contribution, which is typically seen around $30,000 an acre. So, you know, on that basis. So that's what we're asking DEP to do, is to basically vie for us prior to the mitigation council meeting. My understanding is they're meeting in the next few weeks, 2 weeks, and hopefully DEP can, you know, talk favorably to try to ease the issue for us.
Maybe you should go over to the DEP table at the league and look up Jessica
Mm,
and,
okay.
and put some face to face and just say, hey, we're waiting.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Bring all the paperwork we need signed. We can give it to them.
Yeah.
Well, I think
Pat, I don't have a backpack big enough to bring all that with me to.
The stormwater utility. Patrick, any sense on are the fees being paid?
Yeah, fees are being paid. I mean, I have a question into the tax collector about some of our larger payers, New Jersey Transit. I don't know if they've paid yet. The county indicated, at least initially, that they won't be paying. They're in discussion with our township attorney to explain the laws and reasoning behind it. So we're working through it with them. But as far as, you know, the residential component of this, yes, we've got good collection on it.
And we did talk about doing some kind of preemptive press on this so that people understand that. So let's keep that happening, okay?
Yeah, I'll talk to Paul about our first big project, and we'll make sure we do. I know we want to do, you know, some media press on it, but also some signage like you would see in DEP funds projects.
And if I could just add, the mayor and I also presented before, I believe it's a Sustainable Hub, and also ANJEC, which is the New Jersey Environmental Commission's group, you know, the stormwater utility. And I think, you know, it went over pretty well. I think a lot of people had good questions, and, you know, I think it was appreciated.
You're doing another one with DEP, right, Paul?
DEP is interested in me doing one other one. I think there was a conflict because they originally had it scheduled with the league, so I think they're pushing it to December.
Yeah, I think it's December 2nd or something like that.
Yes, yes.
I have a question. I heard that the credit application process is a little difficult to understand. Have people been applying for credits, or how's that going? Or is there anything that we can do to make it easier to promote to people what they can do when they?
Sure. So a couple things. We have the credit policy online, and the process is outlined online. But Dave and I have been, you know, handling the mitigation credits. Dave, I don't know if you want to say a few things on the status of those.
Thank you. Yeah. So we've issued 5 responses to date. 6 actually. 6 formal responses to date. 3 of them were denials or no action, no change. Of the remaining 3, 1 was a reassessment because the initial assessment was overvalued and benefited the township too much. The other 2 remaining, 1 was a rain barrel credit, so we're going to lose $20 for 1 year. And the third outstanding is an actual system that residents had installed about 10 years ago, and they've been maintaining and doing their diligence with. The application package, when people reach out to Paul and I send them back a PDF, 2 versions of a PDF. One is a regular PDF you can print and fill out and mail back, or a fillable PDF to make it easier because we like that right now. And in that email response is also a copy of the credit application manual.
Do we have any outstanding applications, or how many do we have? Requests?
I want to say I have 2 more due this week to issue by Friday. And then I think I've got 3 or 4 for next week, maybe.
Okay.
One of the things I'm remembering that was brought up was, I think you need to like take like measurements. Like there's some like maybe specific like more engineering type of things that maybe the layperson doesn't know what to do.
We do a pretty baseline request. We take on a lot of that effort ourselves. I ask, and in doing so, I have to ask residents for copies of their survey, which I think is a fair trade. They provide that, I do the work.
Okay, that's good to know.
Okay. Mike Haran, what's the status of our tree planting?
Tree planting is supposed to start this Friday. So I've been in contact with the contractor. They have the list of locations for the parks. They've got all the locations for the residents. So that work is, I'm told, supposed to start this Friday.
Yeah, can we get this publicized also in maybe one of the newsletters or something? Just let people know we're doing it.
Yeah,
Deborah?
we're going around to each resident who is receiving a tree and giving them, a guideline and directions on how to care for the tree. So they're going to be made aware of that.
Yeah, I'm talking just general, let the community know we're doing tree planting.
Sure.
So maybe you can get that information over to Cindy Price and she can put it into the newsletter. Deborah?
Sorry, you passed over jitney service. So I just wanted to mention that there's a 2-town working group that formed to talk about expanding jitney service or making some kind of public transportation loops, kind of the stuff we've talked about here in separate meetings. And so I just wanted to let this group know that there is a 2-town group that's come together that Julia Flath has kind of like taken the reins of. And if anyone here is interested in joining, you can let me know and would love to have your thoughts.
Great, thank you. Okay, Paul, you have anything else?
I don't think I do. I think we've covered it all.
Okay, iPhone.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. This is Carmen. I'm Parker.
Hello, Carmen.
Hello, how are you? Good morning to everyone. First of all, I want to thank you for posting the agenda on the website. I think it's very important that residents of Maplewood know what is being discussed at these meetings, because you do discuss and make decisions on quality of life issues and also tax impact on the residents. So I appreciate that. I did notice that it disappeared and it's no longer there. Maybe you can keep it on for the entire time and post it on the website. But my question is that I lost in connectivity and I wanted to know more about this parking permit. I saw on the agenda when it was up that there was, it was discussed at the Township Committee on the 5th, and also there's going to be public comment on the 17th. I'm not sure if, again, because I can't access the agenda, it's not up. Can you tell me a little bit more about that and how this is being planned? And will it be all of Parker Avenue, all the side streets? That's my question.
So if you go on to the, when did we have our meeting? November 5th meeting of the Township Committee.
Right.
You could see the agenda for that. And on there, you'll see 2 ordinances. One ordinance is the establishment of the P parking permit. And then there's another ordinance that talks about changes to parking regulations. And it'll list the streets and where having a P parking permit, you'll be able to park even though there's a school restriction.
Okay.
So if you have problems, email me and I can get you copies of those.
Okay, great, because I did do my research beforehand and I could not find anything even on YouTube about the November 5th meeting or on the website, any agenda items. So I would appreciate that. I'll send you an email.
Yep.
So thank you very much.
Okay. Victor?
Yeah, very quickly. We visited Bayshore, the Environmental Advisory Committee visited Bayshore last year. Paul was a part of that visit, and
Victor, we already agreed to go 1 through 7. We already agreed to expand 1 through 7.
Very good.
Okay, thank you.
Made the right decision.
All right, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Anybody else from the public? All right, unless anyone has anything else, we'll adjourn.
Right on
Thank you,
time.
everyone. Oh,
Thank you.
on time. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.